My Messor colony is growing so fast, I genuinely cannot clean up after them fast enough anymore. And my Lasius colony just did something that told me, without a doubt, that they're finally thriving again. Let's get into this week's update. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another weekly ant update. This week was one of those quieter weeks where nothing dramatic happened, but honestly, sometimes that's exactly what you want to see from a healthy colony. Steady, consistent growth, no stress, no problems. So let's break down what's been going on with both colonies. Starting with the Messor Barbarus colony, because this is where most of the action has been lately. This colony is still absolutely exploding in population, and one of the clearest signs of that is something you might not expect: the mess. Every single day, I'm finding seed husks, and leftover already eaten mealworm remains scattered all over the outworld area. And I mean everywhere. I clean it up, and by the next day, it looks like I never touched it. Now, at first glance, that might sound like a bad thing, like the colony is messy or disorganized. But it's actually one of the best indicators you can get that a colony is healthy and thriving. Messor barbarus are granivores, meaning seeds make up a huge part of their natural diet. When workers bring a seed back to the colony, they don't eat the whole thing. They crack it open, extract the edible interior, and then discard the outer husk, since that part has basically zero nutritional value to them. In a natural nest, ants will actually create designated waste piles, often called middens, specifically so that discarded husks, insect exoskeletons, and other debris stay away from the brood and the queen. It's a hygiene behavior that helps prevent mold and bacteria from building up near the vulnerable parts of the colony, like the eggs and larvae. So when I see this much husk debris and leftover mealworm exoskeleton piling up in the outworld, what that's actually telling me is that the colony is processing an enormous amount of food. More food processing means more energy going toward brood production and worker growth, which lines up exactly with what we've been seeing over the past few weeks with that massive egg pile. Basically, more mess equals more colony, and right now I genuinely cannot keep up with it, which is honestly a good problem to have. On that note, quick shout out to everyone who commented last update guessing whether that unusually large ant I found was a major worker or possibly a second queen. Still haven't been able to relocate her this week to get a clearer look. This colony has gotten large enough that spotting one specific individual again is genuinely difficult. But I haven't forgotten about it, and the moment I get a clear shot, you'll be the first to see it. Now let's move over to the Lasius Niger colony, which also had a solid week. If you've been following these updates for a while, you'll remember there was a stretch where this colony seemed almost inactive, barely eating, barely moving. And it took a while to figure out that they'd actually shifted to being nocturnal, likely as a response to summer heat. Well, now that I know that rhythm, feeding them has become genuinely easy. I know roughly when to check on them, I know what to expect, and there's no more guessing whether the food is even being touched. And this week I actually noticed something encouraging. The colony seems noticeably more active inside the nest itself, not just outside during their nighttime feeding runs. More workers moving around inside their chambers, a bit more general activity near the brood. That kind of internal activity boost is usually a great sign. When a colony has been through a slower period, whether from heat stress, adjusting to a new feeding schedule, or just a natural lull, seeing increased movement inside the nest afterward often means they're recovering and putting energy back into colony maintenance and growth, rather than just conserving resources. It's honestly satisfying to watch because a few weeks ago I was genuinely a little worried about this colony. Now, understanding their rhythm has made the whole process smoother, both for feeding and for just generally checking in on how they're doing. It's a good reminder that with ant keeping, a lot of problems that look concerning at first glance usually come down to needing to understand the specific colony's natural behavior pattern, rather than something actually being wrong. Now, since this was a slightly quieter update in terms of new events, I want to use the rest of this video to talk a bit about something relevant to both colonies right now. Colony growth stages, and what to actually expect as a colony expands like these two are doing. In the early stages of a colony, right after founding, you're typically dealing with just the queen and a handful of workers, sometimes called the founding stage. Growth is slow here because the queen's energy and the colony's food supply are both extremely limited. Once a colony starts producing its first generations of workers successfully, though, it enters what's often called the ergonomic stage, which is exactly where both of my colonies are right now. In this stage, the colony's main focus shifts almost entirely toward growing the worker population as efficiently as possible. That's why you see behavior like what we're seeing with the Messor colony. Aggressive foraging, high food consumption, and rapid egg production, because the colony is essentially investing everything into expanding its workforce. The interesting part is that colonies in this stage often need increasing amounts of space, food, and humidity control to keep up with their own growth, which is exactly why I've mentioned a couple times now that the Messor colony will likely need a larger enclosure sometime soon. When a growing colony outpaces its current setup, you start to see signs like overcrowding near the brood, more debris accumulation like we talked about earlier, and sometimes even increased worker stress or aggression. Right now, things are still totally manageable, but it's definitely something I'm keeping an eye on for the next few updates. For the Lasius colony, since they're a bit further behind in terms of population size, understanding their rhythm now, especially this nocturnal pattern, actually sets up really well for when they do start to scale up their growth too. Feeding efficiently and consistently now means less wasted food, less guesswork, and a smoother transition if and when their growth rate picks up. So overall, even though this was a quieter week in terms of dramatic events, both colonies are genuinely doing great. The Messor colony continues its rapid expansion, ye messy outworld and all, and the Lasius colony is showing real signs of renewed energy now that their rhythm has clicked for both of us. Let me know in the comments, for those of you keeping Messor Barbarus, how much debris and mess do you deal with during a growth phase like this? And if you've ever had a colony completely change your feeding routine like my Lasius did, I'd love to hear about it. Thank you all so much for watching, and for sticking around even during the quieter update weeks like this one. It genuinely means a lot. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. I read every single one. The workers, the queens, and I wish you an amazing week. See you in the next update.